There is a taste, sharp and eternal, that lingers on every tongue. It is salt. Salt, the crystal of the earth, the tear of the ocean, the seasoning of life itself. From the beginning of time, salt has been with us. It has flowed through our stories, been carried in our rituals, and whispered through the kitchens of our ancestors. Salt is small, yes, but never insignificant. It is ordinary, yet undeniably divine. And today, beloved, we are going to walk together through the spiritual meaning of salt, uncovering its hidden power and its timeless message for our lives. Now, some may think of salt only as what they shake over food, but those who carry wisdom, grandmothers, prophets, healers, and teachers have always known that salt is more than flavor. Salt is preservation. Salt is protection. Salt is sacredness sealed in crystal form. It is a reminder of God's covenant with humanity, a whisper from the divine that tells us, you are valuable, you are eternal, you are meant to bring flavor and light to this world. When you taste salt, you are tasting history, the oceans of creation, the tears of struggle and triumph, the sweat of hard labor, and the blessing of survival. Every pinch of salt carries the memory of those who came before us. It carries the vibration of protection, the resonance of abundance, and the healing power that crosses generations. Salt has carried us through centuries. It is written in Holy Scripture. In the Bible, salt is spoken of as a covenant, a lasting bond between God and His people. You are the salt of the earth, Jesus said, reminding us that we are here not only to exist, but to preserve goodness, to heal brokenness, and to give flavor to the world around us. Salt is not decoration, it is foundation. Salt has stood in the middle of ancient rituals. In Africa, salt was used to cleanse and protect. In Asia, salt was spread at thresholds to guard homes from evil spirits. In native traditions, salt was honored as a purifier, a substance that keeps away what does not belong. Across cultures, across centuries, across oceans, salt has always been the great preserver, the great protector, the great healer, and salt has always lived in the kitchens of our mothers. Think of it, a mother stirring her pot, sprinkling just enough salt, whispering prayers as she cooks. That food was not just nourishment for the body, it was a spiritual act, a sacred ritual of care and love. Salt was the secret ingredient that made food alive, rich, and whole. Every meal seasoned with salt became a memory preserved, a love preserved, a family preserved. Beloved, salt may look simple, but it is mighty. It is eternal in meaning. And when we understand its spiritual significance, we see that salt is a key to unlocking healing, protection, abundance, and the sacredness of life itself. So stay with me, because in this video, we are going to explore not just salt on the tongue, but salt in the soul. We will dive into its healing power, its protective energy, its biblical symbolism, and the way it continues to guide us toward divine abundance. Salt is more than what you sprinkle on your table. It is a symbol, a story, a spiritual teacher wrapped in crystal form. And when you learn its meaning, you will never look at salt the same way again. So let us begin. Salt is as old as creation itself. Before nations were born, before kings wore crowns, before temples touched the sky, salt was already here. It came from the seas that whispered with the breath of God. It came from the earth that groaned under the weight of mountains. It came as a gift, silent yet strong, waiting for humanity to discover its purpose. When we hold a grain of salt, we are holding time. We are holding something that has outlived empires, crossed deserts, and sailed oceans. Salt is not new. Salt is eternal. And because it is eternal, its voice carries wisdom, an ancient voice that still speaks to us today. In the Bible, salt is not a seasoning, it is a covenant, a promise. In the book of Leviticus, offerings were seasoned with salt as a sign of holiness, purity, and permanence. Salt could not be destroyed by fire, nor could it fade with age. It stood as a symbol of God's unbroken bond with His people. When Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth," He was not speaking of food. He was speaking of value, of endurance, of responsibility. To be salt meant to preserve goodness, to protect truth, to carry divine flavor into a tasteless world. But the voice of salt does not only echo in Scripture. Across the world, in ancient cultures, salt stood at the threshold of homes. It was sprinkled at the doorway, not for taste, but for protection. Evil could not cross where salt was laid. It was the silent guard, the unshakable shield, the barrier against darkness. In times when families feared unseen spirits, salt was their comfort. A little at the door, a little by the bed, and peace could enter. In Africa, salt was part of sacred rituals, used to purify the body and the spirit. In Asia, salt was poured during ceremonies to drive away misfortune. In the Americas, indigenous traditions honored salt as a keeper of purity. A reminder that the earth itself provides what we need to cleanse and protect our souls. Different continents, different languages, yet the same understanding. Salt carries power beyond its taste, and that power is not just superstition. It is wisdom passed through generations. It is the knowing that salt has the ability to preserve what is good and to push away what does not belong. Even science affirms it. Salt purifies, salt preserves, salt protects. The ancients may not have spoken the language of chemistry, but they knew the truth of spirit. Maya Angelou once said, "When you know better, you do better." And to know salt is to see beyond the shaker on your table. To know salt is to honor every grain as a crystal of memory, history, and healing. Each piece of salt whispers to us, "I preserve, I cleanse, I protect." Salt calls us to remember that we are children of the earth, shaped from the same soil and water that birthed salt itself. To remember that our lives, like salt, are meant to carry flavor, to bring meaning, to endure. When you hear the ancient voice of salt, you realize something profound. You too are called to preserve what is good. You, too, are called to protect your spirit and the spirits of those around you. You, too, are called to carry wisdom forward. Salt does not boast, yet it is essential. Salt does not shine, yet it is priceless. And in the same way, you may feel small in this world, but like salt, you carry power. Power to heal, to protect, to preserve, to endure. The voice of salt is not a whisper of the past, it is a song of the present. And if we listen closely, we will discover that this ancient crystal is still guiding us, still protecting us, still reminding us that we are part of something eternal. Salt is not only for the body, it is for the spirit. We sprinkle it on food, we stir it into recipes, and we see it dissolve into water. But if we stop and listen, we will realize that salt carries a deeper voice, a voice that speaks to the soul. Salt is more than flavor. Salt is medicine. Salt is memory. Salt is a divine healer wrapped in crystal form. A bath in salt, beloved, cleanses more than the skin. It washes away weariness, sorrow, and the heaviness of days. When your body feels weighed down, when your spirit feels clouded, immersing yourself in salt water is like stepping into the embrace of the ocean itself. The ancients knew this truth. That is why salt baths were not just for the flesh, they were rituals of renewal. Each crystal dissolves into water, carrying away negativity, restoring balance, whispering, "Be healed, be free, be new." A pinch of salt in prayer water becomes more than a mixture, it becomes a shield. Across cultures and faiths, salt in sacred water has been used to drive away negativity, to block the hand of envy, to silence the tongue of malice. That is not myth, it is faith wrapped in ritual. When you sip, sprinkle, or anoint with salt water, you are calling on divine protection. You are building a fortress around your spirit that no weapon can break. Salt in our food is more than seasoning, it is a sermon. Every grain reminds us that life, though sometimes bitter, is preserved by grace. Salt keeps what would spoil from spoiling. It keeps what would decay from decaying. And in the same way, grace keeps us. It preserves our souls when circumstances would otherwise tear us apart. Each meal seasoned with salt is not just nourishment, it is a reminder that preservation is possible, that grace is ever near, and that life itself is worth savoring. There is a reason why oceans heal broken hearts. There is a reason why standing by the sea makes us feel small, yet renewed. The salt in the water mirrors the salt in our tears, and tears, though they sting, also cleanse. Salt water holds the mystery of healing. It can sting and soothe all at once. Just as wounds smart when salt touches them, yet healing begins. Just as tears burn the eyes, yet they release pain and open the way for peace. Salt is the bridge between the physical and the spiritual, the visible and the invisible. Beloved, when you hold salt in your hand, you are holding more than a mineral. You are holding a reminder that healing is always possible. You are holding a symbol that protection is near, even when danger feels close. You are holding a promise that abundance can flow, even when lack tries to knock at your door. Salt whispers, "I heal what is broken. I restore what is lost. I remind you of your divine worth." This is why healers, prophets, and mothers across time have trusted in salt. It is not superstition, it is spiritual science. Salt cleanses the body. It strengthens the spirit. It preserves the soul. So the next time you step into the ocean, taste your tears, or sprinkle salt into a pot of food, remember, you are not just touching matter, you are touching meaning. You are touching healing. You are touching grace. The healing power of salt is not in its size, but in its spirit. And when you welcome that spirit, you welcome protection, restoration, and peace into your life. Salt is not only about cleansing, it is about abundance. From the very beginning, Salt has been tied to wealth, to value, to the idea that what is small can still hold immeasurable worth. In the old days, before coins rang in the hands of merchants, and before paper carried the weight of empires, people were paid in salt. Entire journeys were made, entire wars were fought, entire trade routes were carved into the earth for salt. Its value was so high that the word salary itself comes from the Latin salarium, a payment made in salt. To possess salt was to possess wealth. To lose it was to lose power. Salt was not just an element of survival, it was a measure of prosperity. It was what preserved food for long journeys, what kept armies strong, what gave communities the ability to thrive beyond the harvest. Salt was currency, and salt was covenant. It was both practical and spiritual, meeting the needs of the body and the needs of the soul. In Scripture, we are reminded of this deep value when Jesus says, "You are the salt of the earth." Those words are not poetry, they are declaration. To be called salt is to be called valuable, to be declared essential, to be entrusted with the work of preserving truth and carrying divine worth. Salt does not exist for itself, it exists to bring flavor, to keep decay away, to carry abundance into every place it touches. So when Scripture names us salt, it is affirming that we, too, are called to bring life, to protect what is sacred, and to preserve what is holy. But salt's abundance is not only in history or in holy words, it is also in practice. For generations, people have believed in the symbolic power of salt to call abundance into their homes and lives. To place salt in your pocket was to carry prosperity with you. To keep it by your door was to invite protection and blessings into your household. To pray over salt, to speak blessings over it, and then use it in your daily life was to honor the covenant of abundance between heaven and earth. Even today, beloved, people around the world still use salt in rituals of prosperity. A bowl of salt placed in a corner of the home is believed to absorb negativity and leave room for blessings to flow. Sprinkling salt across a threshold is seen as an act of cleansing and renewal, clearing the way for divine provision. These practices are not superstition, they are spiritual memory, carried across generations, reminding us that salt has always been more than seasoning. It has been a symbol of wealth, protection, and promise. Salt teaches us a powerful truth. Abundance does not always come dressed in gold or silver. Sometimes abundance comes in the form of the small, the simple, the faithful. Salt may be plain, but it is powerful. Salt may be common, but it is essential. In this, salt reflects the divine covenant itself, that God's promises are not always grand in appearance, but they are eternal in substance. Salt whispers to us, preserve your spirit, keep your promises, carry your worth. It tells us that our value is not in our shine but in our service. It reminds us that wealth is not only what fills our pockets but also what fills our hearts. And it teaches us that when we honor what is small and faithful, heaven honors us with provision that never runs dry. So, beloved, the next time you hold salt in your hand, remember, you are holding more than a mineral. You are holding a covenant. You are holding a reminder that abundance is your birthright, that divine promises are unbroken, and that your life, like salt, carries immeasurable worth. As Maya Angelou's voice echoes through time, so does the lesson of salt. She reminded us, nothing can dim the light which shines from within, and just as light cannot be hidden, neither can salt lose its purpose. Salt preserves, salt protects, salt gives flavor. Beloved, you are the salt of the earth. These are not idle words, they are a divine assignment. You are called to preserve truth in a world that too often forgets it. You are called to add the flavor of love where bitterness lingers. You are called to protect what is holy, to keep promises alive, and to stand as a covenant of God's enduring grace. Salt does not boast, yet it is essential. Food without salt is bland. A world without salt is lifeless. And in the same way, a world without your presence, your gifts, your light, would be missing something sacred. Never believe that you are ordinary. Just as a small pinch of salt transforms an entire meal, your life, your faith, your love, can transform the world around you. So the next time you sprinkle salt on your food, do not think only of taste. Think of spirit, think of covenant, think of healing and abundance waiting for you. Each grain is a reminder that your existence carries purpose. Each pinch is a lesson that what seems small can still shift the balance of life. Salt teaches us consistency. It does not waver in its role. It does not lose its value with time. In Scripture, Jesus warns, if the salt loses its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? To be salt is to remain faithful, to keep your integrity, to hold your truth, to walk in your divine assignment no matter what storms may come. And storms will come. There will be days when bitterness tries to enter your spirit. There will be nights when the heaviness of life presses on your heart. But salt does not surrender to spoilage, it resists. And you, too, are called to resist despair, to resist fear, to resist anything that tries to steal your worth. Remember, salt is preservation, and you are here to preserve not only yourself but also the generations that follow. When you live with purpose, when you season your words with kindness, when you hold fast to truth, you are preserving hope for those who will walk after you. That is your covenant. That is your abundance. That is your calling. So, beloved, rise each day with this knowing. You are the salt of the earth. Carry your worth proudly. Season the world with compassion. Protect your spirit from what does not belong, and preserve the sacred truth that life, like salt, is meant to be shared generously. If this message has stirred something within you, I invite you to pause and reflect. Share in the comments. What does salt mean in your spiritual journey? Does it remind you of your grandmother's cooking, of Scripture's promises, of rituals of protection, or of the healing waters of the sea? Let us learn from one another, for every story is a grain of salt adding flavor to the great meal of humanity. And, dear friends, do not forget to subscribe for more reflections on spiritual wisdom, healing rituals, biblical meaning of salt, divine inspiration, and the sacred lessons hidden in everyday life. Together, we will keep discovering the treasures that God has placed in the simple, the small, the eternal. Because life, like salt, was never meant to be bland. It was meant to be seasoned, to be sacred, to be full. And you, beloved, were meant to be the one who carries that fullness into the world.